Seat podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca, and today I'm going to be giving you a couple of the interviews that I conducted at the Singer Owners Club National Weekend earlier on in the year. I had the opportunity to speak to three fantastic people from the club about their experiences of Singer ownership in three very different cars, their experiences of being members of the club for quite some time, and just generally what they feel about the cars that they love so much, and how it might help you guys get to know some of the Singer vehicles a little bit better. First up we have Tim Healy, and Tim and his wife Sandy have been members of the club for quite some time, and he shares some memories of being in the club in the 60s and using his, at the time, new chamois for trials and races and stuff like that, to really see what the Singer of the day was able to do when competing, and how that love for the chamois has continued on through his life. He's also been the treasurer for the club for a long time, and it's an incredibly valuable role for many clubs to have, and to have someone who's good at that role, who does an important job so well, is an invaluable thing for many clubs to have. And the Singer Owners Club have been very lucky to have Tim in the role for as long as they have, and I think he shares a little bit of thoughts about the issues that clubs have in getting more people to come up through the ranks, which is something a lot of clubs are continuing to struggle with, getting people to step up and take these roles on. And that's something that we see discussed a little bit with Liz Hayer as well, who we're sat in her 1.5 litre Singer, the bigger flat 6 engine, taking up some room in the car, meaning that we're sat a little bit further back than I'm used to in the pre-war sports cars that I know from Singer. And we have a fantastic chat about getting out and using your cars regardless of the age, really enjoying them and having a fantastic time out on the open road in them. And Liz has been a fantastic inspiration for just going out and enjoying your car, and not being kind of afraid of how old it is, and just having a really fantastic time in it and making memories, which you guys know is something I really enjoy doing with Peggy, but her doing it in the pre-war car of its age is great to see. And then we finish up the interviews with a chat with Eileen Wright. Now, Eileen is the wife of Gifford, who we spoke to a couple of years back now on the podcast, and to this day many of you say that it's one of your favourite interviews that I've done with people on the podcast, because the stories that Gifford shares are just brilliant, and I love it. And so I thought it would be good to have a little chat with his wife, who has been on many of the fantastic adventures and trips with Gifford in the passenger seat, and had the joy of experiencing so many brilliant cars and brilliant adventures from the passenger seat, and has a great fondness for the cars, despite never really considering herself into the cars when she started. And she speaks very highly of all of the adventures they've had, and the reliability of the cars that she's experienced, and the friends that she's made through the club, as well as Gifford. And I think it's a really nice reflection of just how brilliant clubs can be for the whole family, and how particularly the Singer Owners Club has a really welcoming atmosphere for family members, as well as the people that are the one that bought the car. So I really hope you enjoy them, and I look forward to wrapping this up at the end. Okay, so we're joined by Tim Healy here in his chamois, and the club has been running for 75 years next year, and we reckon there's only about 15 years that you've not been involved.
Yeah, I got involved in about 66, I think.
Yeah.
A friend of mine bought a tea chest full of bits and a chassis,
Yeah.
which was a 4-seater, and he built it.
Oh,
I helped
wow.
him build it. So we did it with him then, and then I had a chamois back in '68.
Yeah. So you started off with like the pre-war stuff in terms of
Well, I
working
helped
on
him
his.
build it,
Yeah.
and that was it.
So what was it about the chamois that appealed to you? Because they were still kind of relatively new then.
Well, I had a new one when
Yeah.
I was 21, and I raced it and rallied it. I was interested in the club more those days we used to do a lot of racing and sprinting, and that's what got me into it.
Yeah, because I've read
But I've
magazines.
never got out of it now.
I read it from the magazines back then, and your name was coming up loads in kind of the competitions
Hill
and
climbs,
stuff.
sprints, driving tests. Yeah, that was.
How did the chamois fare up against
It was
the
a
other
good
stuff?
car.
Yeah,
It was good fun. It was the sport one, the quicker one.
Yeah.
And then I eventually got rid of it because I went into the sports girls and bought MGBs and things. But so I didn't have a car for 20 odd years.
Yeah, but still involved in the club.
Yeah, we made a lot of good friends here. It's
Yeah.
a nice club to be in, and at the time I was quite friendly with Mike Bird, who was the president and things. And when I decided it was time I left the club because I hadn't got a car, I got taken out for a quiet drink by him and the chairman, David Freeth, and I ended up being treasurer that evening. I haven't been able to shake it for 36 years.
And it's a very important job.
Yeah, well, count the money, as long as you can count the money. I think they thought I worked in the city, so I'd probably know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I don't know that I do, but there we are.
And what is it that's kept you coming back year after year?
Well, I say the people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no mechanic, so don't. It's not the mechanical side of it. No, it's the people. I mean, I've known a lot of these people a long time.
Yeah. And
it's a good friendly club.
Has it always been chamois? Have you owned any of the others?
No, I've only owned a chamois.
And what is it about the chamois that you like so much?
Well, this one I bought with the heart rather than the head. It came up for sale. It was the same year and the same colour as the one I had when I was 21, so I had to buy it. Which was probably not the most sensible thing. I drove it back from where I picked it up from, where a lady I bought it on. And when I got it home, they said, you shouldn't have driven that back. It's got no brakes. Drove back from Stroud to London with no brakes. But there we are.
You made it.
Yeah. And it's, touch wood and following, been quite a reliable little car.
So if you're not a mechanic, how have you found keeping it going and on the road with the club support?
Well, fortunately, we've got Simon, our club secretary. There isn't anything he doesn't know about chamois.
Yeah.
So though I've had a couple of odd specialist garages look at it and look after it, but Simon always said to me, I want to look after your car, so fine.
Yeah.
So now he does.
Because I think a lot of people do get put off by the amount of work that sometimes has to go into them, but there is ways that you can help out the club in other ways, and they'll kind of help you back.
Yeah. So it's a very sociable club.
Yeah.
And people are very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so we've been on trips in it. I mean, we've had it 10, 15 years now, this car, and we've been on trips. We've been to Holland, we've been to France.
Yeah, very usable.
Yeah. Though at the moment, I don't know. Having driven up here, I'm not sure I'll be going any long trips again.
Because you've come from
London,
down near London, yeah. So, and this is up in Northumberland this weekend. Durham
260 odd miles, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember when I first had the first one, I'd drive anywhere in it without any problem at all. Now I'm thinking, I'm not sure I'd drive this far again.
But
there we are. No, but most of these cars I've known for years because they don't change hand a lot, and they've been in the club for years.
Yeah. Have you got any kind of special memories or whatever from over the years from owning the cars, either from back when you were racing or more recently on your road
I remember
trips?
driving down the straight at Brands Hatch once and leant over to turn the radio off. That's how competitive I was.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but we've been to Holland on the Lustrums. We went to France last year for the trip they did to France. We went to the Isle of Man. I mean, we've been around and quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I say luckily it's only once. Probably tempting fate here let me down, which was on a Singer National weekend.
Yeah.
But luckily it was there was a chap in the club, he's dead now, who had a garage, and he took it in, took the head off and had it all sorted, and I got it back, and it's, I say, touch will work perfectly since then.
Yeah.
But no, been quite fun.
And what would you say about someone that was thinking about buying one? Like what would...
These?
Yes.
They're good little cars.
Yeah.
I mean, if
the
you get a good
Imps and
one, they
stuff
go
have
well.
had some bad press over the years.
They got bad press originally when they were first built. They had problems with the head gaskets and things. And
yeah.
I think it was a typical bit of, I'll probably get shot for this British engineering. You know, they were throwing them together a bit. I think.
Yeah.
Well, it was because it was funny because half of them were made in Scotland, then they were taken to Coventry to be finished, then they went back to Scotland and things. And I don't know, it was the most professional.
Yeah.
Roots was the most professional construction company in those days, but I shouldn't say that. But no, I mean, if you get a good one, they're good. They go well. I mean, I think I prefer them to minis.
Yeah.
And everyone says they handle better than minis. I think
Yeah.
they do.
And I feel like there's more space in here than a mini as well.
There is, and all the glass all around. Someone said to me yesterday, you've got plenty of room. It like a bit like a fish tank.
Yeah.
But you can see everything all around you. It's good from that angle.
And you and your wife won an award last night at the awards for all of your
for being here, for being hanging around for so long.
For all your contribution to the club over the years. How have you both found kind of being part of the club? Does she enjoy it as much as yourself?
Yes, she does. Yeah, I mean, she likes it as well. In fact, I was talking about selling this, and I've been told I'm not allowed to.
That's great. Yeah.
You can't sell it. I said, all right, but don't make me drive up here again.
Well, you just next year's down closer to yourselves.
Hopefully down near Welling Garden. No, not Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, should be a good one and not too far of a distance.
No. I mean, I don't mind driving, but it is a long way up here.
Yeah.
I say, I never realised how far it was. Not been up here before. I'm not sure I'd do it in a Singer again. I might come up in a Modern and have a look around.
And what would you say about someone who was thinking about coming to their first Singer National weekend?
Come and try it. I mean, hopefully, I don't know, you come either just to look at the cars or perhaps the thought of joining and buying a car.
Yeah.
I mean, there are cars around, I know. I mean, and it's a good weekend. Everybody enjoys themselves. Everybody, as you say, mucks in.
Yeah.
And work, and you can catch up with old friends and make lots of new friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
That's all right.
And many more years in the club for you, I'm sure.
Well, one hopes so.
But perhaps with slightly less responsibility at some point.
Well, you heard what I said at the AGM. I'm trying to find some, but everybody's ducked.
Yes.
Nobody seems to want to.
And continues to do so.
Yeah, nobody seems to want to take on the... It's not that challenging. I mean, Sandy says I can keep doing it because he keeps me out of her hair now I'm retired. An hour a day sitting in the office playing with money, but... we'll see.
Yeah, and roles like that are really important to keeping the clubs going.
Yeah, that is the most important thing. But probably just our worst problem is that we haven't got that many young people.
Yeah.
And why that is, I don't know. I mean, I know they prefer the Ford Escorts and this sort of thing, but they can have as much fun, certainly in the Chamois. And I mean, I know there aren't a lot of spare Le Mans and things around, and they're not cheap, but. They're not an ideal, starter car for a young lad who's got. But I think you can pick a Chamois up for not too much money.
Yeah.
And they make a good car. And they're quite fun.
I mean, you were competing against quite a wide range of stuff when you were competing in the 60s, and they were.
Yeah, I mean, when those days, the club was. I joined it because I like the competition side of it, and I think most of the people in the club raced anything but a Singer.
Yeah.
Honda, Martin Ray had a A40. I mean, we all had different cars, but we were all part of this club, and when we just the friendships built, and we kept going. But then, of course, some of the cars, well, the older ones got more expensive, and they went up in price. And I think people thought that we shouldn't be racing them, or it wasn't. It was. But there are still one or two people using them for competition, which is nice to see.
Yeah, it's fun, especially like cars like Buttercup, which won an award last night as well. That's
that car.
I suppose you've got some stories from seeing that one.
I've known that car from day I joined. Ian Blackburn had it, and I mean, it never looked smart, but he used to use it the whole time. I mean, great. He used to go up and down the hills and go on all the big trials and things. Yeah, no, it was quite fun.
Covered quite some miles, that car, and not easy miles.
No. Yes, no, we've had some fun in it.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason why I shouldn't carry on having fun in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I say we could do with a few younger people coming up through the ranks to keep it going, because tempus fugit, we're all getting older. The committee average age goes up every year. We don't get too many youngsters.
Yeah. And keeping the clubs going keeps the cars going, and everyone being able to come together and enjoy events like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Singer National Day.
Well, I hope so. I'll now go and work out the results.
So we're joined by Liz Hayer, who's here in her 1.5 litre. Can you briefly explain to those who don't know what's the difference between one of these and one of the 9s and the sports over there? Because if you're not educated, they might look quite similar.
Well, they do look very similar. The obvious answer is that this has got a 1.5 litre engine in, 6-cylinder engine, whereas the 9's 9 HP 4-cylinder. And the engines are actually quite different in a number of ways. But as you can see, the body shape is all pretty much the same. And the chassis has been slightly modified on the 1.5. It's got diagonal rails to support the engine because of the bigger size of it, and it means you sit further back. You're probably shoehorned as a driver into a smaller space.
Having just kind of come from over sitting in GIF's one over there with Eileen, you are in a much smaller kind of space here, but the compromise for the engine and everything like that.
I'd have to be honest and say that while on the face of it you'd expect a lot more powerful engine, the car's heavier, so you don't quite get as much more from the car than you'd perhaps expect.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually driven a 9, so it's quite difficult for me to say, are they the same or different to drive? I just know that I love driving this car.
Yeah.
And get a huge amount of fun from it.
So was this your first Singer?
Yes, and it was pure luck that I ended up getting it, because I've owned it 25 years or so. I've had an Austin Heath Frog Eye Sprite for 45 years, and which I've still got, and I've got an Austin 7 that I've had a bit longer than the Singer.
Yeah.
And we just moved house. We went to a car show, and about 2 cars parked away from us was this immaculate Singer 9.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with it. And I kept going back to see if I could see the owner. I never saw the owner.
Yeah.
But I liked the car so much, I decided that I'd quite like one, not really knowing the difference between 9s and 1.5s. So I joined the Singer Owners Club.
Yeah.
Put an advert in the mag, wanted 9 or 1.5, and then had several people ring me up and said their car was for sale. And this isn't actually the first 1.5 that I saw. There was one quite near us, and I'd agreed to buy it, but the chap said to me, well, there's just one minor hitch. Many years ago, I agreed to give first refusal to somebody if I was to sell it, but he's in Germany, he's getting a divorce, don't worry,
Yeah.
And then of course the next day he rings and says, I'm really, really sorry, but this guy wants to buy the car. But fortunately for me, and this car came up quite local, although actually the guy rang me to say he had his 9 for sale, and I just about agreed to buy the 9, and he said, oh, I've got a 1.5 as well, would you like to see that?
Yeah.
So I said, oh yes please, and then agreed to buy the 1.5, and he went and told his wife, who was extremely annoyed and said it was a much nicer car than the 9.
No.
So I thought, oh God, I've lost a second one, but then he ultimately rang me back and said, no, I'm selling the 1.5.
Yeah.
So, that's what I ended up with.
And what is it about this car that you've enjoyed so much that you've kept it for as long as you have? And you've done a big restoration on it as well.
Yes, it had been reasonably well restored before I got the car, but had quite a lot of problems with the engine, and that had work on it. But the bodywork had been done, but not to a hugely high standard. But we've done over 45,000 miles in the car. and the body was beginning to get tatty. You know, we did some repairs to it, but you kind of reach a stage where you think, waste of time and effort. Just go for it. Get a new body made. So Tim Barker made me a new body, and then obviously having the body off took the opportunity to do everything else. And I've tried not to kind of over restore it. So not all of the chrome work has been redone, because I'm not somebody to sit and polish the car and look at it. I'd rather get out and drive it.
Yes, because you've covered quite a lot of miles recently. You went over to the Netherlands
and
France as well.
Yeah, we covered just over 1,600 miles in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We went to the Fougères Rally in France, in Normandy and Brittany, then travelled across northern France, across Belgium, into the Netherlands, and then up to the north of the Netherlands where the Lustrum was.
Yeah.
And had a fantastic time at the Dutch Lustrum, and then drove home from there.
That kind of really dispels the idea that these pre-war cars aren't usable, because you went out, all your luggage and stuff.
Yeah, you know, I think it's about having confidence in the car.
Yeah.
And yeah, you don't expect with a pre-war car just to put it away in the garage after you've used it, and 6 months later get it out and just go in it. You know, you need to check things. You need to take what spares you can with you. But I think then the car really benefits from being used rather than staying in the garage. And it's saying, look, if at the end of the day something goes wrong and the car needs to be recovered home, you've got recovery insurance. Isn't it better to go out and enjoy it and take the risk that it might break down?
Yeah.
And than be worried about doing it. And the more you use it, the more confidence you get in it anyway.
Yeah.
You know. So I'm all for using them.
Yeah. Have you got any particularly special memories that you've made with the car? Any trips that really stand out to you, or?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, the trips abroad when you meet other people and get to chat to them about the car. And then I suppose last Singer National weekend, a completely different experience. I'd spent a long time over the years trying to track down the previous owners of the car.
Yes.
Not very successfully. But then out of the blue, had a contact that ended up being a friend of a chap that owned the car in the 1950s.
Wow, yeah. And they came along, didn't
they? They were up in the northwest and managed to arrange for David Gibson, the chap that owned the car, for his son-in-law and daughter to bring him down to Singer National weekend.
Yeah.
And then to take him for a drive in the car, which I think it made my day and it made his day as well, I think.
Yeah.
But he was given the car as when he was 21 for passing his university exams.
Oh, what an amazing gift!
So, and he always said it was the best car he'd ever had.
Yeah.
And don't think for one moment he thought you'd ever see it again.
Yeah. And to have seen it after you'd had all of the work and everything, and it looked so beautiful, must have been really special.
So yeah, that was great. To think that you're kind of sitting there with somebody that's been sitting in the same position in your car, but some 50 odd years difference between. It's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're quite heavily involved in the running of the Singer Owners Club. You're on the committee. You do all the DVLA stuff. What inspired you to get involved in the running of the club?
I guess I just saw it as things needed to be done. Cars need volunteers to help them to run, and the club's really friendly.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you want to help to give things back.
Yeah.
And the DVLA stuff, it's quite a lot of work, but it's just great when you've helped somebody get the original registration back on their car.
Yeah.
And it's interesting researching it and just making the whole thing happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I actually caught you earlier and you were giving someone lots of details about how to go through the process and stuff, and you've had quite a lot of success rate with it.
100% success rate, touch wood.
Excellent.
But it's like all these things. The more you do it, the more you kind of realise kind of what's in the mind of the people as the application lands on the DVLA person's desk, and you kind of tailor it to meet that.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's probably pointing out the obvious, but you're in the minority here as a woman in a pre-war car. What was it about pre-war cars that appealed to you? And have you found, like, your experience being a woman being different? How would you encourage more women to get involved with them?
I mean, it's certainly the case that there's not that many women drivers on pre-war cars, which I think is really sad. And I guess I was interested in cars when I was a teenager, and I got my Austin Healey Sprite when I was in my 20s, and then just gradually I guess became more interested in the older cars, and as I said earlier, it was kind of luck that it was a Singer that I got to buy, as opposed to a Riley or something else. But they're just nice and simple.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, they are different to drive from a modern car, but they're not as difficult as some people like to make out. And to be honest, if I can drive it, so can any other woman.
Yeah.
You know, it's you might crunch the gear a few times, but then so do men. They probably don't want to recognise it. And I think it is sad that the more women won't actually just give it a go, because I think they really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult. How do you actually persuade people? I think you've probably got more chance of persuading people to drive sort of 60s, 70s cars, maybe particularly because they're the cars that were in their family when they were youngsters.
But then they come along to something like this, perhaps in a Gazelle or a Vogue or something, and they look across the field and, like yourself, might fall in love with something that they spot next to them, and then that's the hope, isn't it, really?
And I think it's then trying to say, well, how do you give people opportunities? It's like the young people that came last year to sing a national weekend, and as you know, I took some of them out in the car, and you know, I think they really loved it.
They really did, yeah. They were so grateful.
And there's nothing like actually going in a car to actually sort of feel, this is different. This is something I'd really like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for sitting down and talking with me and sharing the lovely stories of your car. And I wish you both very many years of motoring.
Thank you very much, Becca.
So we're now sat in Gifford Wright's car, and we're joined by Eileen, his wife. Now, we spoke to Gifford, it must be nearly 3 years ago now, at the Nottingham one, about his time with the cars. But I thought it'd be interesting to speak to you, because you weren't a car person before you met Gifford.
No, I was not a car person before, but from the minute we first met because I was walking along in Southend, where one of my closest friends lived, where Giff lived, and we were walking on the seafront. I had been asked to be her first daughter's godmother, so I'd come down for the christening. So we're walking along, and Caroline said to me, "Oh look, here comes Giff in his old car," and this green Singer, I now know it was, sort of, she said, "Oh, he's sure to stop." Anyway, he shot past and disappeared, and she said, "Oh, I thought he would have stopped, you know." And, so I said, "Well, I don't care." I thought, what a meanie is what I said, "Oh, I don't care if he stopped or he didn't." Anyway, we had our 50th wedding anniversary recently, and in the speech he gave, he said, "I first saw Eileen walking along Southend seafront, and he said, I shot past her because I stepped on the accelerator instead of the brake. But the thing I don't believe that for a minute, but that's the story." He said, "And the thing I remember most about her was she was wearing the tightest trousers I'd ever seen on any girl," which was not exactly what I wanted to hear on our 50th wedding anniversary. But anyway, everybody laughed, of course. So that was where I first saw him. And then that night...
So immediately you see him in
Yes.
one of these cars.
Exactly. And Caroline said, so I said, oh, I don't care if he stopped or he didn't, but I did feel a bit, oh, what a shame. Anyway, that night he rang my friend that I was staying with and said, could I take Eileen out for a drink? So Caroline said, no, you can't really, because it's a baptism of the baby tomorrow, and I feel it would be nice for everybody to be in. I thought, what a shame. But anyway, she said you could take her out for a drink tomorrow. So the next night he took me out for a drink, and what really sold it was, I can't think, what's the name of the drink where you have a cherry in it? A gin. I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, I asked for this particular drink, and I said to him, just because it was true, but also just for fun really, I only have it because I love the cherries. So he came back, and he usually got one cherry in this drink, and Gifford had asked for 2 cherries, and when he came back with 2 cherries, I thought, this is a good man. I think
he'd redeemed himself from the seafront.
He redeemed himself. And then, so we then I was up in Teesside, up in North Yorkshire. He was down in Southend. So it was a curious sort of thing, really. But he was, he drove up and back and miles and miles. And he's just, well, as you know, he's the kindest. I mean, he's such fun. And he's the kindest guy, and our life, and a lot of it is because of the old car club. We've had so many lovely, lovely occasions with them. Travelling abroad has always been fun. SND's always been brilliant. So I wouldn't be without the Singer Owners Club. Definitely.
Because a lot of people know Gifford for all of his involvement in the club, and so he was the editor for many years.
Yes.
And, so much involvement in the running, and he's still on the committee now. And so you've kind of been along with that ride as well, and part of it.
Yes, I have, I suppose. I mean, I'm ashamed to say I didn't get terribly involved with the magazine. I know it was there on the dining table for most of the time, which I couldn't care less about. But I left him to it, I have to say. I had tennis to play and, girlfriends to see. But it's been a plus in our lives, a huge plus in our lives. I think our lives have, the people we've met, the places we've been, I can't think of a negative about it really.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I do. I say to him, I say to him sometimes, if I had a green body and red wheels, I'd get more attention from you than I do. But that's only if I'm feeling really because he's down in the garage dealing with tappets and big ends, and I don't know what either of those might be. So there we are.
And you said, you've been overseas, you've done all of these trips. Have you got any particularly special memories from all of those times?
Oh gosh, have I got any? I must have thousands really. We've been to Holland. In Holland, I think we've had the most fun because the Dutch people are so relaxed and casual and just easy to be with.
And there's a lot of singers.
A
over
lot of singers.
in
I
Holland.
suppose a vaguely, I can't really think of a particularly interesting one, but one fun one was all following each other in Amsterdam, which was it's not easy with old cars in
It's
the
not
city.
driving in Amsterdam, no. I've done it myself in my Morris Minor, and it's an experience.
Absolutely. So, somebody is looking at the map, and all we girls have got the map. Somebody's leading the way, and we think we're going along and doing very well. We're going along by a big canal in the centre there. We're all going, left to right, or wherever it might be, and then we look across the canal and we can see the other half of the Sing-a-Lot going in completely the opposite direction. No. So that was one that we did chuckle about at the time, but I can't really think of anything else. I'm sorry, I'm not to be more interesting.
It's those sorts of things that you remember. It's weird things like that stick in your memory. And the experience of driving in an open top car through the centre of Amsterdam is something that's really going to stick with you, whoever you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about it, going to Le Mans, it's obviously in France, going to the old, it wasn't called the old Le Mans, but
The classic
Le Mans. That's right. And we were Giff and I and some other singer people said that we'd be on duty in the museum overnight. And so I know Giff slept in a car that had been Hitler's overnight. I can't remember whose. Mine. I slept in a different car that had been somebody else's, but Giff was certainly in the one that Hitler had had. So that was quite a fun thing as well. Yeah. So you just sort of. Everybody is so kind somehow when you're in an old car. People are generous with their time and complimentary, and you know, you get nothing but good vibes. So
Yeah.
you sort of come back from a ride in an old car, I think, and it can't just be the singers. And people have waved and cheered and brought the children over, can they sit in? So it's all so positive. And in the world, as it is at the moment, where there's, I think, quite a lot of negativity, it just, yes, it's a lovely, lovely thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Giff's owned quite a few cars over the years. Have you got a particular favourite?
I suppose CPA, which is the one he had when I first met him. So that's probably the one I have the fondest memories of. But they're all lovely, really.
Yeah.
They're all lovely. I don't really have a favourite, but I have the longest memories, I guess, of that. Yeah.
Has he
yeah.
still got that one?
I can't remember.
He's still got so many.
He's
don't know
got
what
got three. He's got
Yeah.
three, and we've got three grandsons. So the boys hopefully will get a car each, kind of thing, when something happens to us. Certainly that's what we'd like to happen. But the youngest of them, so we've got twins of 12 and then little Daniel, who is 7. So he came down into the garage with Giff recently, just a couple of weeks ago, and Giff said, "Which car do you like best then, Daniel? And you know, if you boys all were going to have a car each, which one would you have?" And he just said, "The biggest." Yeah.
He knows how to pick them.
Absolutely. I suppose the one that's the most expensive, he was probably thinking, I don't know. But certainly it would be lovely if
Yeah.
it would be lovely for them to,
Have
because
have they been out in them?
Yes,
Yeah.
they have. And you know, we've done the Land's End Trial, and we go on the Brighton Run, and all just fabulous things, really.
Yeah. And
Great.
you're from round up here.
Yes,
so
I'm from
is it-
Thornaby-on-Tees, so this is home for me. Although I didn't know Raby Castle existed. Nobody has ever mentioned, we never went to Raby Castle. Nobody ever talked about Raby Castle. So all the places we went to yesterday, I was remembering, and it was lovely. Really lovely. But Raby Castle, I wish we had known about it. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful. But no, my aunt and uncle lived in Raby Road in a place called Redcar by the seaside here, and I guess that's named after the castle. But I never thought, I wonder why it was called Raby Road, because I didn't know the castle existed, I guess. Yeah.
So has it been nice driving the car around all the places that you remember?
It has. Oh, I must tell you the best bit, I nearly forgot. Well, the best bit for me. So we were going close to where I was born and brought up, and on the way up, Giff said, "Shall we go off the main road and we'll go to your house?" I said, "Oh, love, you've been driving all day in the heat." "No, don't worry, no, I'm absolutely fine." So he said, "Oh, come on, let's do it." So we go along the road and there's our dear little house, 3-bedroom semi,
Yeah.
with 8 of us living there when we were all there together. And I felt quite tearful, I have to be honest. Anyway, so we stopped outside, and I said, "Oh, you know, the garden had gone at the front, but you know, there was for the car to be parked there now, as it is today with many people." So Giff said, "Go on, go and ring the bell." And I said, "No, I'm not going to ring the bell." He said, "Of course, you've come all this way, just go and ring the bell," which I would not have done anyway. This is what I mean, I do so much more and have much more fun with, because I'm married to Giff. So I go and rang the bell, and this lady came to the door, and I said, "Oh, hello, I'm really sorry to disturb you, but I was born and brought up in this house." And so she said, "Oh," you know, she was just lovely. She said, so we had a chat about, "Where do you live now?" We went through all of that just for a few minutes, really. And I said, "Do you have children?" She said, "Yes, I've got 2 girls." And I said, there were 8 of us living in the house when I was here. So she said, gosh. And I said, and you know, this is true, I said, I don't remember a cross word in this crossword being, nobody seemed to get cross with anybody in the house. And she said, it's funny you should say that, because my husband and I came to look at the house, and she said, when we came out, we both said, that'll be the house for us. It's a happy house.
Yeah.
And it was a very happy house. And then I taught at the school that's opposite, went to the school that was opposite, and is still there, and taught at the school. We went down past the church where we got married. I mean, the church was closed, sadly, but no, it was still nice to do. So that was a lovely thing to do. And Gib took a photograph of me on the doorstep, which I sent to my 3 sisters, who all said, oh, lucky you, we wish we'd been there. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, and it's like the house, like cars, has kind of got that story that you were able to kind of share with that person.
Yes.
And you've got that connection to people that you might never have had if it wasn't for the
car
car or the house. Yeah.
Exactly, for the car or the house. So yes, the singer yet again brought us to good places, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fabulous.
lovely. Well, thank you very much for sharing some of your memories.
Oh, well, I'm sorry my memory is so bad that I can't remember other things. But anyway, it's been
lovely.
It's been fun for me. So
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you for the very good questions that you asked. Because I was thinking, gosh, with my memory so bad, and I know I haven't remembered everything, but I was feeling it was going to be a test, even though I said I'd do it. And it was fun.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So I hope you enjoyed those interviews. It was a joy to spend a bit of time sat in some absolutely gorgeous cars, some very well loved cars that have made so many happy memories for the members. And I remember coming along to shows for some time now and getting to kind of capture some of their story and some of the people that loves them's story. And I hope you've learned a little bit more about some of the singer cars that are out there, and I would love to hear which of the 3 cars that we were speaking about interests you the most down in the comments. And for the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.